What's very important for everybody to understand here is that there was multiple moments that you could have stopped, that you could have just said, you know what, this isn't meant to be. I'm going to quit.
It was so hard
because
there were nights where I would just lay in bed and cry because I felt helpless. This isn't going to work. When I tell you the emotional turmoil that I was going through during this time, it will tell you to take the risk. It'll pay off, you know, and that's what I was doing. I was taking the risk and it wasn't paying off. It was terrifying.
Sharp French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time. I confirmed it. A whole society determined success.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Determined Society. Once again, it's me, Sean French. Before I introduce today's guest, yes, you guessed it, please hit subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and share this show and the message with someone that you know, love, and trust that needs to hear it. And most importantly, I want to hear from you. Follow the Determined Society on Instagram, the Sean French on Instagram. Let me know what you want to hear about. And if you want to be on the show, there's an application process. Please feel free to contact me and I can direct you to my individual that will help you get through all the application. So without further ado, today I have a good friend of mine. I met her in a community chat while we were sipping coffee on a virtual event about 2.5 years ago, maybe. It may not have been that long ago, but instantly we had a really good connection. It was a part of my journey when I was super lost and I didn't know where this thing was going. I knew what I thought I knew and where I felt it could go. And she poured into me immediately. And I've never told her this, but that day she really saved me from making a stupid decision and shutting the show down. So publicly edify her and thank her. Her name is Kiera Palmer and she's an amazing, badass entrepreneur. She lives in Atlanta and she recently, started her own studio and her social media management company. And it's just an amazing business. And she has had some struggle in leaving corporate America and leading to where she's at right now. So without further ado, Kiera Palmer, welcome to the show.
Hey.
What's going down?
I know.
After all this time.
Crazy.
Never seen you in person.
I know. Isn't it weird when you've known somebody for a good bit?
Yeah.
And it feels like you've seen each other. So when you finally do, it's like,
it's like the power of social media though, right? Like right away, 100%. Let's talk about that because there's a lot of negative connotations with social. It's this dark place. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, if you're a dark motherfucker.
Yeah, right.
But if you're somebody who if you're somebody that really wants to bring good into the world and you want to meet good people, you attract that.
Yes.
And from there, you build these genuine connections that I may not even have in person with people that live in the same city.
100%. Yes. And I mean, let's be honest, you can curate your Instagram feed and your TikTok feed to have positive things. Yeah. You don't have to see the nonsense. So.
Yes.
But yes, you and I, it's been such a cool thing I will side note, you've been such a good supporter virtually for so long. And, we've had that for quite a while now. So it's really cool to be able to get together and do this and support each other in that way too. So, but yeah, I mean, seeing you in person after seeing you online for so long,
yes,
it's great. I mean, I know we've talked on the phone,
of course,
too, but yeah. So, but
this person's real.
I know
this person.
Good to hug you.
I know, right? Good almighty.
Yeah. So
amazing. Thank you so much for flying down here.
Thank you for having me.
That's one of the most amazing things is never in a million years did I think that this platform would turn into my friends flying in.
Yes.
Flying in to do this.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things where I just kind of realized okay, we're doing something valuable here.
Absolutely.
Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't, right?
Yeah, I would say that. I wouldn't just fly out anywhere, to do that. I mean, because that's obviously, time resource and things like that. But this was jumped at the opportunity.
So
to
amazing, dude. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
So grateful. For the audience that doesn't know you, right? Why don't you give them a little peek behind Kiera Palmer and everything that's gone on in the last, 3, 4, 5 years?
I guess 5 years
now.
5 years. Wait, is it 2020?
I don't know what year it is.
Oh my God.
I think it's still, dude, it's been January for 7 years.
Yes, it does feel like
Good
that.
God.
Yes. January 56.
Yeah, I think it's January 56th right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess I've been it is 5 years, I guess, because COVID was basically when I went full time into entrepreneurship. So
Fun times.
I started my career off in the ever exciting high risk commercial property insurance field. So I was a broker and I did like hurricane terrorism insurance, that kind of stuff. So
Fun.
it was,
Sounds depressing.
Yeah.
Sounds depressing.
So you can imagine my equipment job.
Hell yeah, dude.
So
You'd have been in an insane asylum with a white padded room and a straight fucking jacket.
Yeah. And I will tell you, so that was actually before the COVID time, but there's a story that goes with that of how ridiculous life was in that corporate space. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And there was a nightmare story that caused me to quit my job without a plan. So I don't think that I would recommend that to anyone, but it was my story. So I made it
But is there
work,
ever a right time? Like, honestly?
There's not. And I think people get too wound up in that part of it too. Like, oh, everything has to be perfect and has to be ready. And I have to have X amount of dollars and I have to, and that's not the case.
It's perfect case scenario, right?
Yeah. And so mine was such a knee-jerk reaction to a situation. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And I mean, I literally stayed up all night, went in the next day, quit my job. I gave 3 weeks notice. And at the end of 3 weeks, I went to Hawaii for 2 weeks, which was fun. Yeah, it was real fun.
Wow, what part?
We were in Oahu and then we did like a quick bounce over to Maui and then back.
What'd you like better? Probably Maui, right?
They're just so different, I think, because you've got like Waikiki Beach and it's very happening, it's very like busy. And Maui was so much more relaxed
Serene
and beautiful. And
yeah,
what
I
is
went
that
to
road to Hana? Isn't that what it's called?
I don't know.
It's like this really long road that you can drive. I mean, we did like the sunrise on the top and then we biked down. It was just,
Damn.
It was
You and hubby did that?
Yeah, Trey, his friends lived out there for a long time. So we went a couple of times to visit them, but they, so they knew all the fun things to do.
Wow, dude.
But that's how I quit. That's how I spent my quitting of my job is let's go to paradise.
Yeah.
And so while I'm freaking out about, oh shit, what am I going to do now? I was getting to do that in a very pretty place.
It's so funny because like I've been to Oahu. I went for my senior trip. I went with my ex-girlfriend, who has passed away since then. We stayed really close friends, but we went to Oahu. Everybody told me like, dude, it's like San Francisco on the beach. Yeah. I'm like, well, it's Hawaii, so we're gonna go. And it was a blast. I've never been to Maui, but I want to go. Now I'm all the way over here in Florida, so it's like that's like a 10-hour flight.
It is big, big flight.
Yeah, come on, I might as well go to Australia.
Yeah.
That's a thought.
You should.
I just
got back. I went to New Zealand last year.
Did you?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was beautiful.
It was awesome?
Yeah. It's just a really long flight.
Wow, God almighty.
It's rough.
I want one of those beds to sleep in and like maid service.
Yes. Yes. Those lay flat beds.
Can I say maid? Is that degrading?
I guess they're like, I mean, yeah, probably.
It's probably fucked up.
Yeah. I was like, maybe not.
Yeah, well, you guys know my intention.
Yes.
You don't turn the show.
But I know what you mean. But yeah, especially if you can, when you're on, is literally, I mean, especially from where we are, Atlanta, Florida, whatever, it's a good 36 hours of a travel situation.
Yeah.
Because you have to fly to LA first and then the layover and then LA into Auckland. And if you want to go to South Island, then you got to take another flight.
That makes me anxious.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Okay, so
anyway, yeah.
Wow.
Back to we were good at tangent.
The dual ADHD is fucking
We're both like that.
I know. It's like, oh my God. Okay, so situation happened.
Yes.
Quit your job. Are you open to talk about the situation? Like what happened?
Oh gosh, yeah. I actually talk about it frequently because I think it's good for people to hear. But the industry that I was in, I really, the last few years I was there, I hated life. I could not believe that I'd spend so much time building this career for something that made me so miserable. And they have the Gen, what is the latest young people, the Gen Z?
Gen Z?
Yeah, they have these words like quiet quitting.
Okay.
And may have been a little bit of that.
What's quiet quitting?
We're like, you're just not performing at your highest.
Oh, you're just disengaged.
Yeah, you're disengaged. And I was pretty disengaged. But I also was in that moment of like, I don't know what I'm going to do. You had that old school mentality of, you went to school to get X degree and you're doing all these things. So I don't know. I just was having like that inner crisis of I don't know what to do, but I know that this is not my life. I don't want this to be my life. And I ended up going to work for one of our clients who I'd known for 8 years, and he had a terrible reputation. But I was coming from a boss that was also had a terrible reputation because he was so tough and I mean, just make you cry all the time.
God.
So I'm like, if I could do that for 8 years or 9 years, I can handle this guy.
Yeah.
And it was awful. I mean, I was only there for 10 months, I think it was. But just very inappropriate behavior. And I'll let you go with that. But several occasions, very inappropriate behavior. But when you get to be, in your 30s or whatever, it's really hard to get your friends together, especially women, because they all have children. I don't have children, but they all have children. So if you want to get all 5 or 6 of you together for a night, it's just difficult to do. So we had planned, this is some girls I used to be friends with, and we had planned this night out together like 6 months in advance because we were going to see The Lion King at the Fox Theater, like a show, a dinner and a show. So we bought tickets, and I remember all the way back then telling him, hey, I have to leave early this day. Yeah. And mind you, like, I'm like number 2 level in this company. It's not like I'm a college kid who needs permission to go to the doctor, Right. So I was like, hey, I'm putting this on your calendar. I need to leave the office by 4 p.m. that day, latest. I've got to, because I'm going to see these girls. I haven't seen them forever. So excited. And reminded him about a bajillion times. And
not to mention it's on his freaking calendar.
Yeah. And that day I remember like reminding him, and one of our clients who was coming up for renewal, like in, 6 to 8 weeks on it, we were working on a project with them. And I remember about 3 p.m. he walks into my office and basically gives me this assignment that's going to take 5 to 6 hours. And he tells me I can't leave until it's done. And I'm freaking out because this is like my biggest client, but it wasn't a big deal. But of course, he make it a big deal.
Of course.
So
I know that game.
Yeah. And so I kind of got in line and gave the yes, sir salute and stayed there. And I missed the dinner and the drinks and all that stuff. And so I finally get out of there. I'm texting them and I'm like, I'm so sorry. They're like, we ordered you a glass of wine so that when you get here, you can have like down it and then we'll go.
Yeah.
And I remember, so in Atlanta, for those of you who don't know, Atlanta traffic is a nightmare. We're known all over the country for that. And I was driving in the downtown connector, and he calls me, like just berating me about a cell on a spreadsheet, the formula's not right on. I mean, there's thousands of cells, right? And all these pivot tables and things like that. So
ridiculous.
And I'm like, I don't know, just check it. Either you can just click on it and see what the formula is and just fix it. I don't know. I mean, I've spent hours on this thing. He's like, pull over the side of the road and check this. I'm like, I am on the middle of the downtown connector. I am not pulling over the side of the road. Pull up your laptop and connect it to your cell phone as a hotspot and just fix it. And what do? I mean, this is so dangerous. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm in this. But I pull out my laptop, I sit it on my console, I connect it to my phone. I'm trying to manipulate a spreadsheet as I'm driving in stop and go traffic in downtown Atlanta to do this, and I fix it. And I remember doing it, I valet my car, I walk into the restaurant, and I just tears because I've been looking forward to this night so much. I missed the entire thing, and we're not going to talk to each other at the play, so it was just enough. And I will tell you that one of my good friends, Amanda, who's also an amazing entrepreneur, she looked at me and said, Kiera, working at Starbucks would be so much better than what you're doing. Yeah. And I'm like, you're right. This is egregious behavior, and why am I participating in this, and at this point in my career, this is unheard of. I can't believe that this is my life, So we went to the show, we got out of the show. And when I say the inappropriate behavior, he had an alcohol problem, and I had this email that was all misspelled in caps and all this stuff, just basically at 11 something at night saying, I hope your personal life is more important than your job and blah, blah, blah. And so I remember I came home that night and waited for, Trey was still working nights at the restaurant at the time. And so I waited for him to get home, and he came in, and it was like 3 a.m. I'm sitting at our dining room table.
That's like scary.
And he's like, oh my God.
What did I do?
Are you leaving? No.
Where's looking for the suitcase?
Yeah, right. And I just looked at him and I was like, I just was in tears. You could tell I'd been crying. I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. Yeah. And he was very supportive of it. And he was like, you do what you need to do. And I stayed up the rest of the night to put a ball cap on and went in the office and quit. So
that's badass.
Yeah. Dude. I just couldn't do it.
What did the boss say?
Oh, he's so immature. My goodness. He was like, okay, that. And no emotion. And I said, I'm giving you 3 weeks because I leave for Hawaii on next, I'm going to work. This client is important to me. And it's a big company. You would know him if I say it off. And so it was important to me to leave on good terms. And so I said, I'll give you 3 weeks. I'll be here, and I didn't see him after that day. He didn't come out of the office the whole time. I have not spoken to him since.
Good. What an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, really, for the audience, like, listen, everybody's going through shit in corporate America, and I'm not saying leaving corporate America is your answer. What I'm saying is you need to find a situation where you can not just be yourself, but you can feel supported and truly led by your leader. Do not work for anybody that is going to cross boundaries and break commitments. Like, that is not okay. What part of somebody would literally say, like, this has been on my calendar for 3 weeks, and then say, you know what, an hour before you're supposed to leave, you need to stay. But everybody, I say that, but we've all been in that situation.
So many people.
You know, I've worked for some big Fortune 500 companies, like big ones. And you always want to, I would say, perform for your direct leader, no matter what, right? You want to show that you're the good soldier. You want to show that, you know, I am the top producer and this is my responsibility. So come hell or high water, I'm going to do what he asks or what she asks. I'm going to show that son of a bitch. But at the same time, when we do that, we're giving them permission to do it again.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think too, if you're the kind of person who is really determined, you know, and you really want to be whatever that is that you're looking to be, right? You know, if you want to be the leader of the company, if you want to be the best at something, you know, you understand that it's going to take certain things to get there, right? But I think it gets really messy when it's outrageous behavior and outrageous demands and things like that. Because, I mean, I think so many of us in our 20s, we work hard, we work long hours, we come in the weekends, we do what needs to be done to get to the level that you want to be at, right? And I think that's just such an interesting thing, I guess, now being on my own for so long, that you don't have to work like that. You don't have to have a culture like that. Yeah. And, you know, my friend Bridget, who, you know, we're really good friends. She was ex-corporate too. And we talk a lot about just the culture of personalities and things like that, of what, you know, the place where I used to work and how really not great things would go on. And, you know, you get caught up in that too sometimes and drinking too much and doing things like when you're out entertaining and all that stuff. And I just, you know, you had those moments where you can look at yourself in the mirror and just think, what am I doing? This is not me. And this is not who I want to be. And this is not who I want to be 10 years from now. Yeah. Either, you know?
Yeah. I have a question for you, and it could be controversial, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think that boss would have treated you like that if you were a man?
No. Well, okay. Well, there's two different ways here. Okay. Because the men who... Because
I hold on real quick time because I see that as bullying. Like that was bullying. That was bullshit.
But they would bully everyone.
Okay.
But I mean, there was some inappropriate behavior that was... I mean, I was female,
of course,
and young and blonde. It just really inappropriate stuff. Oh. I mean, you know, you look back and you're like, oh, he did that cringe, like some of those like specific things, you know. There's actually this, I remember very specific, and it wasn't me that he was talking about. I remember one day where he was walking around the office with his phone and he was showing pictures of this female that used to work for him who had some plastic surgery.
Oh my God.
And he's like, you know, and he like showing it to people, and I'm like, does he realize that it's just not okay?
Well, that's harassment. Even if you're in the area, that's still harassment. Yeah.
But I mean, and then that industry too is definitely like bro driven.
Okay.
Very bro driven. I remember being out in Vegas at our like high producers conference one year, and our office won for like office of the year, and say, hey, we all go piling up on the stage, and like all the producers, and someone looks over, there's literally like 2 women on stage. And then like 45 guys, you know, like they're like, ooh, that doesn't look so good.
That's a disparity there.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm like, well, yeah, that's basically how it is. So, yeah. You know, you almost like get to the point and you're like, well, I mean, I think they've gotten a little bit better over that over the years because it kind of had to. Yeah. But again, I've been out. So
see ya. Yeah. So this is all interesting to me because all of this happened. And I think that what I want to connect for the audience is that all these things happening in your life, right? Like the disrespect from the boss, the inappropriate behavior, the egregious asks, right? The behavior. It's like everybody has that version going on in their life. And what's important is to really highlight the fact that you decided to make a move. And when you make that move, you don't have to have everything figured out. And I think too many people, and before I started the show, I was constantly saying, well, I don't have this yet. I don't have that yet. Like I need to have all these different things in place before I make that decision. And in some ways, like before you leave corporate America, you do have to have somewhat of a, maybe a financial plan or a cushion, right? But too many people are waiting for the right time, and the right time never comes, and they're stuck. And you know who gets to suffer from that? Their spouse and their children, if they have children. So like, how did you, I know it was just finally done, but like, how long did it take you to find what you were going to do and go on this journey? Because I think this is the beauty part.
That's the part. Yeah, that's the significant part, I think, because the 5 months that followed, I didn't do anything.
Okay.
Because I was in that analysis paralysis situation. Like, what if I do this? And then, of course, I had not yet established that I could be 100% on my own. I was kind of like, where career path I'm going to take. So that was an interesting time. And what happened was, I was going, and we'll get to that in a second, but like I was going through all the things that I know how to do and all what do I enjoy and what kind of lifestyle I want to live and like all that stuff too. But what you were just saying, which I think is important and was a process of mine, is that so many people, like you were saying, they're so afraid to start because of X, Y, and Z reasons, right? Whether they're not prepared enough, they don't have financial situations, whatever. Now, obviously I had some savings and things like that, and I was able to support myself through that. But you literally just take a step. And I think that when you're looking at the path ahead of you, it can get overwhelming because you think that you need to know what the end of the path lies ahead looks like, and you don't.
You don't.
It's every day you just put one foot in front of the other. You don't have to run a mile at a time. You could take 2 steps, and it's propelling you in the direction that you need to go.
Yeah.
I think that might be the overall message that any entrepreneur would tell you is that you don't know what you don't know, and that is perfectly okay. You figure it out as you go.
Yeah, still
and it's
learning.
Exactly what I did. I figured it out as I went. And so how I got into where I am now is, if you guys remember how awesome Instagram was back in like 2014 and 15 when it was just pictures.
I didn't execute it.
Okay.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I barely was on it.
Okay. So it was for me back then. I'm like, this is so fun. You just take pretty pictures and you grow and you have friends, and I loved it. And so I'm a big traveler. I love to travel. And that was also part of, corporate career. It just didn't allow you to do that very much. So, you'd have like one big trip a year and then maybe a few sprinkled in. But anyway, I loved taking pictures of the travel and all these places. So I ended up starting a travel Instagram account and blogging.
You did tell me about that.
Yes. It was so cute. It was the Blonderer instead of like the Wanderer, which I thought was so clever at the time, and just taking really pictures of wherever I traveled. And back then social media was so easy because that's all you had to do. It was like the perfectly curated picture.
Now it's
right. Yeah. So it was really easy to go back then. And so I was doing that on the side just for fun. I didn't even like tell my friends I was doing it. And so then I started like growing, and we had this little community of like travel bloggers, and then Delta Airlines started picking up my content. And yeah. I mean, they used it in-flight videos. Remember the Sky magazine that used to be in there? There are paid advertisements on social media, email marketing. I mean, everywhere. And so like my followers shot up. I got up, I think it was like 50,000 at the time. Wow. And I mean, from back then I was so excited, right? Yeah. And so what happened from there was people were asking me to run their Instagram for them because they wanted to get followers.
Here it goes.
Like that. And so this is really funny, but my first client paid me $250 a month.
Been there.
To run there, right? And I'm like, yes.
Hell yeah, client, baby.
Because it's a side hustle. And so, so I started doing that. And so meanwhile, all of that was happening when all this other stuff was happening, right? So I knew that I had that, but I didn't know, because right at that time was kind of the infancy stages of that being a career path.
Yeah.
It was very new.
Sure.
And now it's all the rage, right? So I did take a job and then moved to another one. And this company, there was a marketing company that hired me. And I still have a really great relationship with the owner of that company. He's so supportive. I talked to him a couple of days ago, sends me referrals, and has come to see the studio and all that. He's just a great guy, and which was such a change from previous, right?
Shit.
But in 2020 around COVID, like that wasn't super successful and all that stuff. So it was kind of one of those times where, okay, you got to make a decision.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? This is not working.
Yeah.
You got to make a jump.
Sure.
So I had enough side hustle clients that could sustain my bills, like half the mortgage, or, like all of this.
Awesome.
It covered that.
That's great.
So it almost became all right, maybe I have to lessen my lifestyle a little bit, but I can do this.
Yeah.
And so I went head first into that and started my company, The Social Project. And we do, all digital marketing stuff. So website development, branding, social media management, strategy, things like that. So I've been doing that now. I guess it's 5 years this spring.
Dude, it's so freaking wild. You know what's funny? Because it's like every conversation I have with people and every time I break down when someone says, hey, how'd you build this? Like, I need you to help me build this. And like, here's my goal. And if I could just get there, if I could get to that spot. You talked about steps. Like, you don't need to know what's at the end of the rainbow or end of the road or whatever, but everybody wants to focus on that macro result. And I think, and I know what is going to pay massive dividends for those of you listening and watching right now is pay attention to the small steps. Because in those small steps, that is you and your process and doing what you need to do strategically every day to move the potential brand, the potential business, revenue forward. And it doesn't happen overnight. So if you're wanting it to happen overnight, you're doing it for the wrong damn reasons. Focus on the impact, focus on the process, and dive into it and understand in those small micro steps every single day. That's when you're becoming that person you're supposed to be. And then when you become that woman, when you become that dude, now it starts to open up. And now you can finally, you're like, I'm not there, but like, dude, I'm like 25 miles away. Like, I know where I'm going now. And I just kind of feel that in my own life right now. It's like, I'm not there.
Yeah.
But like, I'm getting closer to the destination.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like
I've been feeling that. I mean, I think you and I've talked about that a little bit, just kind of both of our past years and all that. And, I was joking with, so my aunt is a super successful woman. I mean, she's a total badass. And I was talking to her a couple of weeks ago about wanting to grow the social project so that the social studio is not, I don't view that as one of my income streams right now because we're trying to build and we want to expand and all that stuff too. And I laughed at her, to her, and I said, that I'm not really done business development for this company. And she's like, really? I was like, every client that's come to me has been a referral. Wow. And I keep people long-term. Wow. Which is great. And so I said, no, I'm putting a new hat on. Like, I've never actually been in that position, but that's something that, I'm putting one step in front of the other. Like, okay, let's go build this. How do I do this? Because I've never had to do it before. Yeah. Which is really cool. But, when you talk about that and just taking steps, which, I've had a few successful years with my own company and expanding and doing all that. So it led me to a new venture, which is complete. I mean, they're separate companies, and then I opened the social studio, which is so exciting. I mean, I'm so in love with this space. It is. And for those of you listening, it's a multi-use facility. It's really beautiful. So you can come in and create content, record your podcast like we're doing right now. And photo shoots. We have all the, backdrop equipment and stuff like that, but you can also rent it for small events. And that is so cool. That's amazing. That's great for Atlanta. Yeah, it's great. You know how many badasses are in Atlanta that can take advantage of that space? Yes. Yeah. We actually, when I thought that it would be more geared towards the content creation part of it, but the events are really taking off there because, and this was part of the reason why I wanted to include that is because I've also been someone who's hosted events for many years. I ran a breast cancer charity for many, many years and women's entrepreneur networking group. And when you're hosting an event like that, you have two choices. You are either in a bar or a restaurant in private rooms or something like that kind of scale, or you're in those big event venues that cost a fortune. Amazing. And so there wasn't really anything in the in-between, that where you max out around 75 to 80 people in terms of the venue size, but you can still host an event for 20 people. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I wanted it to be, to have that middle in between where you can rent it by the hour. You can bring your own food and beverage. You don't have to use our vendors. You don't have to spend a minimum. You don't have to, spend X amount on alcohol and, all this stuff. Just make it really easy. And that would benefit so many people in Atlanta, especially entrepreneurs, especially people who are trying to do their own thing, because it's affordable to come and do your own thing. So, with that said, I had no idea. And when I say zero idea how hard it would be to open a brick and mortar business.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, when I started the social project, it was on my house.
Yeah.
You file your LLC, you get your bank account set up, you do this, you start, your little QuickBooks and things like that. It's in your online systems. That was a breeze.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not easy, but that was a breeze.
But it's easier
to what I've been going through. So, all of the things, it was just opening the studio, which now it's great. It almost makes you forget how hard it was to get it open, but that was a nightmare.
Talk about that though. Like, talk about the fear.
Oh my God. And that's one of my favorite subjects, because when you were talking about, you just go, you just take the step. I think that fear, and even if it's like a hidden fear, even if you're saying, oh, I'm not afraid, you probably are. And that's probably one of the reasons that's holding you back, because there's a couple of things like, what if the business fails and you lose all your money?
Yeah.
What if something fails and then you're embarrassed in front of all these people who have watched you go after it, right? It's a little bit terrifying. So I like to say, hey, I mean, if any entrepreneur you're looking up to or a business owner, they've all failed, and they've all failed a lot of times. So you just fail forward. Yeah. So it's just pushing you to the next location or your next destination or whatever you want to call it. So I thought, so silly for me to think this, but I thought that I would sign a lease, do the construction, paint the walls, do all the things, and then open my doors in 5 to 6 weeks.
And everybody would just come.
It
was just like, if you build it, they will come.
So February 24, I'm like ready to open my doors, like March 1st, here we go. Yeah. And we still don't have a CO, like a business license. And I'm like, well, it's coming. It's fine. And so I remember we had like this little, come check out the studio thing where we invited our friends and family, and we couldn't open the doors yet, but we're close. Yeah. And we are not close. So I followed up with the city, what's going on? Like, oh, we're missing a page from your application.
Thanks for letting me know.
Cool. It's been 6 weeks. Why wouldn't you one page? And then I even went back. They never sent it to me. So it wasn't an oversight on our part, right? So we get it done, whatever, submitted. 2 more weeks go by, and then I get my first decline for the business license. And they declined our business because they put us into the category of movie production. And Atlanta is like a really big hub for, Hollywood and
competition,
stuff, right? So they're like, you can't do that there. I'm like, well, I don't know what you were looking at on my business application, but I have no idea what movie production is. This is not my business. This is not what we're doing. Oh, and then resubmitted it, another decline. And so then I started going up to City Hall and like trying to speak with people in the planning department, because it's all zoning, and explaining to them what this concept was. And so one of the people there said, well, resubmit your application and call it a photo studio first, then list the other things. Cool. So I do that.
Oh, no.
2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, I get another decline, and they added on photo studio as one of the reasons. And they're like, it's not allowed. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not allowed. Because
you just told me to do it.
Yeah. So there's this thing, like when you're opening brick and mortar, you have to like pay attention to like what kind of businesses are allowed and what are not, what is zoned, what is not. And I mean, I just don't think they knew who they were messing with. I'm like, I will fight to the death for this. So I'm like researching and like all this stuff. And the year prior, this list is pages and pages long, and it is very specific about what is allowed and what is not allowed. So like, adult entertainment, not allowed,
Surprising.
So, right? So the year prior, photo studio was on this list, checked as approved. 1 year later, it's not on the list at all. It just skips over the number. So it goes from like 5.20 to 5.22. So I'm like, where'd this go? I would like to have the minutes of the city council meeting to where this was voted on and why it was removed, because you're declining my business because of this. They couldn't provide an answer. And then I went down there and I was like, okay, this is not an actual photo studio, because I'm not a photographer. I'm not taking pictures. People are just coming in with their phones and recording things, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, that's not allowed either. So that was actually told to me after I resubmitted it with content creation. And they told me that content creation was not allowed.
So 4 declinations.
Yeah. and content creation. And so then that's about the point where it was like somebody lit me on fire. I was so angry. And so I sent them, I was like, oh, so does that mean that you're shutting every business in this district down? Because they're all creating content for their business. And I sent them everybody's Instagram account. And I'm sorry, I expect all these businesses to be closed tomorrow. It was a mess. So and I ended up talking to an attorney, and he gave me some like wording to use about setting precedent without, I don't.
Yeah.
So you can tell that it was like legal advice. And he told me to send that and copy all of the city council members and the mayor. So I did. And within an hour of me sending all of that over, a city council member called me. And that was in May. And that is when the ball finally got rolling in my direction. But then it took 2 more months.
To get
to do that, because they would do things like, well, now that you're going to have events, you're technically considered assembly, and assembly meaning like a church.
Yeah.
Where you have thousands of people, right?
Okay.
So then from that, the floor plan that we submitted was no longer okay because I had to hire an architect to come stamp it, which is like $4,000. I mean, it's just crazy. So it was a mess. But yeah, once that started happening, the ball started rolling again, and then we finally got approval in July. But what was so fascinating about that process is that for whatever reason, they didn't want me to advertise that it was coming. So I got a cease and desist thing posted on the front door.
Fantastic.
It's like jail time, big fine, because I was posting on Instagram that the studio was coming soon. So the day that I got my business license, it was like, oh, I have a business. I'm open, with no lead up to announcing it. It was it's just
that's wild. And like, this is what I really want the audience to focus on, because I'm hearing a lot of failure here.
There's so much.
And you know, I didn't know all this, right? Like, I know you open up a studio, you're open, cool. Like you're executing it. You're having events, you're doing cool things there. But what's very important for everybody to understand here is that there was multiple moments that you could have stopped, that you could have just said, you know what, this isn't meant to be. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit.
On that, it was so hard.
Yeah.
Because think about all the money that's being in the shredder. There were nights where I would just lay in bed and cry.
Yeah.
I mean, just because I felt helpless. You know, that's a really hard feeling. And I did feel like a failure, and because it was just, this isn't going to work, and I'm going to have wasted all of this money. I mean, when I tell you the emotional turmoil that I was going through during this time, I can't explain it, because it's like everybody will tell you to take the risk. It'll pay off, and that's what I was doing. I was taking the risk, and it wasn't paying off, and it was terrifying.
But you know what's encouraging though? It's like, you've been through this.
Yeah.
Now, and you came out of it.
Yeah.
So in about a year, you're going to come across someone that is going through something similar, and you're going to be able to coach him or her through it and help them, let them know, hey, like, this is where I was at. These are the stages I went through. And if this is what you're feeling right now, it's totally normal.
You want to know what really got me through too? Is I kept telling myself, you have those moments, they come to Jesus moments or whatever, where I'm like, I'm not the person though. I am not the person who quits. I will not do it. I will not quit. And then, you have those moments of realizations where, they always give you these statistics like X number of businesses last out of the X number of businesses that are started. And it's not a lot, the ones that become successful. Yeah. And I remember, multiple times, like sitting in my car as I'm doing my makeup, just like looking, because you could just see it in my face. And I was just kind of, I was going through it, but I would tell myself, like, this moment right here, this is where people quit. And you're not going to. Like, this is it. This is what you read about. This is what you hear stories about. You're not going to quit.
Dude.
Yeah.
There's been multiple people over the years. We may have spoken about this offline. I'm not sure if we have. But there's been multiple people over the course of the last 4.5 years said, you cannot build a brand off the backbone of just a show. I was like, well, why not? They're like, well, look at Joe Rogan. He was Joe Rogan. Like, look at Andy Frisella. He started First Form, and I go, well, dope. I will be one of the first ones that build an empire off of a microphone and a camera. And then I will build something else that comes along with this brand. See, because to me, the way I look at it is like, to me, that's true reverse engineering. Like, no, I hadn't really done anything. I did some things in sales, and I was, top 1 to 5% of every company I was with. cool, neat. But I hadn't built a business. And I just feel like now we're starting to really truly build the business aspect of it. But like to going from an iPhone in a car to number 3 on Spotify in business, that is determination. That is like being a glutton for punishment because just like you, sitting in my office, I remember when I was doing the show from home, like I would sit in that den where everybody always saw me smiling and giving the most energetic interviews. Most of the time, before those interviews were shot, I was pacing around the house in tears, depressed, because I felt like I wasn't good enough, because I wasn't getting the response. But what I learned is I was becoming somebody that was fucking bulletproof.
Yes.
And now that I've changed other things in my life, my nutrition, my activity level, and now I'm completely transforming, not just externally, but internally, like, like this is what we're coming on to. Like, this is what we're building. This is what we're doing. And I've become a different human.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that part of that, when you're having those moments, because I think about this a lot, you know, especially when you're trying to coach up somebody else or something like that. You know, I think because of the world of social media and things like that, people have this very skewed idea that these things happen overnight, and everybody wants instant gratification.
Yeah.
Instant gratification. And that's because we are conditioned to feel that way, right? We if we want groceries, we can have them delivered in an hour. If we want, you know, I mean, all of these things that are
me and Bedros talked about that.
Yes. I mean, and it's crazy how all of our lives revolve around instant gratification. But when you're trying to build something like this, it is a long road. Mm-hmm. It is not easy, but it's so rewarding. And I think about that too, some of those points where like I said before, I'm a huge travel, love to travel. It's part of my blood. It's why I want to make money. Honestly, it's just so I can travel.
Sure.
I mean, full disclosure, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the last year, I joked to you guys that, you know, flying down here is the first time I've been on a flight in a year.
Which is
wild.
That's wild.
I mean, I don't think that's happened since I was in college, maybe. I mean, I lost my platinum medallion ship with Delta, which was tragic, but I'm like, it's fine. You know, but I literally.
It was a tragedy.
It was tragic. I mean, I know that sounds like such a bratty, but I've been that for so long. But I just had to take a step back and say, that's still me, but I am building something here. So so those of you listening to this, you do have to make some sacrifices sometimes. You do have to change your behaviors. You do have to change your discipline. All of those things, if you want to create something bigger, you have to sacrifice sometimes. And some people will tell you like, oh, it's so easy. I mean, you get into that looped in trap because, I mean, if you think about like how many videos on social media do you see a week where like, I make $900 million in 1 hour by working 1 hour a day a week. I mean, it's just constantly in your face about how, and I'm like, they're not. I mean, yes, there have been some people who have really hit it big and they are making tons of money, but it was a slow process to get there. And there's only those tiny fraction of people who something did just click and it went
slow
overnight.
Process. So, yeah. And we'll land the plane here, you know, like this has been such an amazing conversation. I just wish you were local so we could do it again soon. But like we talk about the instant gratification, like, and I mean this with complete respect because I don't want this individual to hear it and think that I'm shit talking him because I respect him. Diary of a CEO, Stephen Barnett.
Yeah.
Had no clue who he was until 2 months ago. I'm sorry, I didn't. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. And so I look at that and I could say overnight success. Mm-hmm. I know homeboy's been grinding. Mm-hmm. He's been at it. And again, maybe I was just misinformed and that wasn't in my algorithm, right? Now it is. The dude's amazing. Mm-hmm. Like so when I got the picture sent to me from my friend Steve over the weekend on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m., dude, look at this. Like it was him. Then it was Monday Morning Coffee or something like that. And then the Determined Society. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like right there with that guy. And it was really cool. But like nothing is an overnight success. That dude has been grinding just because I didn't know who he was. And I don't mean that as a knock, but like there's a bigger picture here. There's a massive undercurrent of all the work that he's done. I mean, that dude's a G, man. Yeah. Like I didn't know who he was now, but now I'm like, dude, I'm a fan of this guy. Yeah. He and I should get on a show. We should. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's on the vision board. It'll happen if you want to.
I mean, My people get in touch with his people. I get my people.
But I mean, that's such a good point. You know?
Yeah.
It's such a good point. And
You just never know.
it's wild how those things work, you know, and this is part of why I love your brand so much, you know, the determined, like if you are determined and you're dedicated, you can create some pretty epic shit in your life.
You can, but you can't come off it.
Yeah.
Like determination, well, answer that. What does determination look like to you?
Well, I mean, that's part of what I experienced last year. And I'm like, I'm not a quitter.
Yeah.
I know things get tough. I've been through hard stuff. I've been through a lot of hard stuff in my life, you know, and but I am determined to live my life as full as possible. And I, you know, part of that, and I think, you know, like, you know, I lost my mom when I was in high school and that was she was so young, you know, and so now I've always had this in my head of like, you have got to live life to the fullest because we are only here for a very short amount of time.
Fact.
And I don't want to be that person who is in the office 9 to 10 hours a day, barely seeing my family, not experiencing the world, not living in a joyous way, just being happy and fulfilled and great relationships and friendships. I'm like, that's what my life is going to be. And whatever it takes to get there in a very moral way. And I don't mean the other stuff. I mean in a very determined, positive direction. I'm going to go do that, you know? There
it is. Don't let up. Just don't let up. You can be the person that's going to quit. Quitting is going to be hard. Sticking with it's going to be hard. Choose your hard. That's not a proprietary statement, but really think about that. Like, do you want an easy life or a hard life? I would rather the easy life, so I'm going to do the hard shit, right? So just thank you so much for coming on. Like,
I adore you.
I adore you. This has been amazing. Can't wait to get some food with you after this.
I know. Yes.
God, what a surreal moment.
Yes.
Surreal moment.
Thank you
That's
for
what
that.
I love for this. So thank you for coming down here. And
I can't wait until we're celebrating you being number one. I can't wait. That's going to be incredible.
you know, I got goosebumps because I want to save that celebration for number one, not categorically, but overall. It's coming. It may be 5 years, maybe 10. Damn it, it's going to happen. And we will fight on those micro movements and that process until we get there. So with that being said, guys, please share the episode with somebody that you know, love, and trust that needs to hear this story of overcoming obstacles and turning it into opportunity that Kiera has done. So thank you guys so much. Until next time, stay determined.
Sean French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time, I confirmed it. A whole society determined for sure.